ようこそ。What's up everyone? I am the Kaiju no Kami, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Yakuza Like a Dragon. After Yakuza 6 concluded the saga of Kiryu, SEGA decided to take a different approach to the Yakuza franchise with its follow-up installment. Not only was the game going to introduce a new main character for players to take control as, but also move the game away from its actiony roots and make it a turn-based RPG. This decision was a baffling one, and yet they somehow managed to make it work. It also helps that the new lead, Ichiban Kasugi, is a huge Dragon Quest fan and even states during the game that he always imagines himself playing a turn-based RPG whenever he gets into a fight.
になると頭の中で自然に回っちまうんだよ。ドラクエの世界が。
うわ、またドラクエっすか？兄貴どんだけ好きなんすか？
悪いかよ。いいだろう。そっちの方がアドレナリン出るし、全力出せんだよ。
As such, there are times when the characters themselves will make hilarious comparisons to what is going on with those of a video game, such as leveling up, grinding, why certain jobs are not available right from the start, and so on. It's a very clever idea and one I am pleased to say worked very well for me despite not being the biggest turn-based fan. I like turn-based RPGs with Final Fantasy VI and Nocturne being my top favorites. They're just not my go-to genre. Therefore, I had very high concerns for this gameplay change. Thank the gods it all worked out, as by Like a Dragon's 5th chapter, I found myself hooked on the way the new setup played, and now I find myself not minding the turn-based aspect as long as it only sticks around for Ichiban's tenure. I don't think it would work as well being under any other character.
なんだこいつら変身しなかったか。
ああ？何言ってんだお前。
Anyway, before diving into more of the game, I should at least introduce you to the main players. Once again, we've got Ichiban, whose story is similar to Kiryu's, for he goes to prison at the beginning of the game and comes out into the world in 2019 having no idea what anything is anymore.
そういや、足立さんにスマホもらってたな。ちょっと待てよ。電話のかけ方。どうやんだ?
It does lead to a hilarious conversation about one of his favorite manga series not being done.
無所から出て、ふと俺が好きだった漫画の最終回、どうなったか気になってさ、ちょっと本屋で立ち読みしてみたんだよ。
それで？
そしたら今もまだ連載続いててビビったぜ。
えらい長寿漫画だな。だがそうなると追いつくのも大変だろう。
いや、作者が救済しまくりであんま話進んでなくてよ。なんつうか不幸中の幸いって感じだったぜ。
それは幸いなんだろうか。
横浜も広いよな。移動するだけで疲れちまうぜ。
この程度で値を上げるなんて男らしくないわね。
おお、その発言はイエローカードだぞ。
あ？
今は男らしくないとかめめしいとかそういう発言は NG なんだ。男女差別に厳しい時代だからな。どこで誰が聞いてるかわからん。
私はそんなの別に気にしないけどね。まあそういう世の中だってなら言い換えるわよ。この程度で値を上げるなんて人として終わってるわね。
さっきより辛辣になってない？ DVD 販売か。最近じゃ DVD プレイヤーも値下がりしたんじゃねえのか？
は？
俺が無所に入る前はまだ高くて買えなかったんだよ。だけどそろそろ値段もこなれてくる頃だろ。 VHS とかもうだいぶ安くなってんだろうけどさ。
VHS？ もう長らく見なくなったな。
どういうことだ？
どっから説明するか難しいが、いろいろと跡目争いは大変ってことだな。
そうなのか。
Next up is the homeless mage Yunanba. A detective named Koichi Adachi.
地ずれにしてやる。
The first of many love interests for Ichiban, Seiko Makoda. Ichiban's secretary from the business management side story, Iri Kamataki.
まずは次はあなた。
Han Jun-gi from Yakuza 6 returns. Along with another member named Tian Yao Cho. All of these characters have their own personalized job class that give them a unique set of skills, some of which can be carried over to other job classes. For example, one of my favorite attacks from Seiko was acquired when I had her donning the hostess class, which had her shatter a block of ice before an enemy for multiple hits of damage. I then changed her to the idol job, which allows her to essentially become the RPG equivalent of a white mage due to all of her healing skills, while also maintaining the icebreaker ability to damage enemies when I did not need to heal my team. You can also build bonds with each character. Doing so will not only allow them to level up even if they are not actively present in your party, but they will also gain new tag team based skills, which can be very powerful attacks depending on the enemy you are facing off against. Sometimes, it may even be more beneficial to use those abilities over regular attacks. Speaking of special attacks, my favorite in the game is acquired by completing the aforementioned business management story, which gives Ichiban access to a freaking laser beam from a satellite. Say goodnight, Gracie.
ド派手にぶちかませ!
There's nothing more satisfying than an armada of goons who think they're going to smash your face in. only for you to summon a laser beam from space to wipe them all out in one hit. Ichiban also gains the ability to summon various characters and creatures from the series to help him out during battle. They do cost money through an app titled Poundmates. They are often well worth the cost. There are a couple I won't show you due to spoilers, but here's a look at a few of my favorites.
困っている春日さんに募金をお願いします。このままじゃダメ。お願い。奇跡よ。起きて。ありがとう。大事に使ってくださいね。ミルクかな？おもちゃかな？ご機嫌悪いのかな？すすむちゃん、一緒に遊ばないのかな？どうしたの？お腹空いちゃってるかな？
I love them. While the game does begin and end in Kamurocho, and you do have access to Sochinbori after a certain point, the vast majority of the game takes place in a new city that is part of Yokohama called Ijincho. Ijincho is quite expansive compared to those found in previous installments, to the point that you will really want to use the taxi system, as it can be quite daunting at times when you want to go from one end of the map to the other. The only downside in this game compared to the others is you have to physically go up to each taxi and interact with them to activate them if you want to be able to use them as a travel point. I didn't come to realize this until I was a good chunk of the way through the game, so I was often cursing at the game when I wanted to go to another area of the map but had to run all the way there. There are some interesting sights to see in Ijincho, such as a T-Rex freeze sticking out of a burger joint, the park is vast, and Chinatown has some great scenery. Pretty much all of the mini-games featured in the last few games have returned, so this time around, I didn't spend too much time playing mini-games unless they were required for a trophy. I did go through the entirety of not Mario Kart, which has Ichiban kart racing against other players. If you have played Mario Kart, or any kart racing game that came out since, you know what you are in for here. A lot of frustration, screaming at the TV, and possible rage quits for a day or two. Which is probably why Ichiban started spazzing out here.
ありがとうございました。
You also have to play through the entirety of Dragon Kart if you plan to complete all of the game's sub-stories, as completing each cup will net you access to a sub-story. The same goes for romancing all 6 women Ichiban becomes friends with, which will lead you to a final sub-story that reminded me of a certain plot featured in The Witcher 3.
この新作ボウガンまだ試し打ちしたことなかったんだよね。
As for the remainder of the sub-stories, most of them are fun more often than not, which is par for the course in this franchise.
だからお願いです。あなたの服を貸していただけませんか？
え、やだ。
そうですよね。こんな泡まみれの男に服なんて貸したくないですよね。
We've got a return of the baby Yakuza, which had me accidentally agreeing to join the dude. Yeah, that was funny in a creepy way.
おい、待て。俺は別にそこまでするつもりは。てめえ、何しやがんだ。話せ。おい、こら、いい加減にしねえと。
A trio of tales where I had to fight animals thanks to a careless ringmaster. Investigate rumors of a serial killing maniac and meeting Jie-san.
お前は何者なんだ。ここで何をしてる。
お前、俺の邪魔する気か。
Helping a sadomasochist find pain again.
本当に痛くて気持ちよかったです。だからあの素晴らしい痛みをもう一度僕にください。これで。
手加減はできませんよ。
手加減なんていりません。魂の一発お願いいたします。
A series of events where I would feed very spicy kimchi to people that would turn them all into Sonic the Hedgehog. Not literally. Although, that doesn't sound very far-fetched for this series.
渡れたじゃねえか。
Another kicked off a series of minigames where I had to watch classic movies in the theater and not fall prey to scary men in business suits with sheep heads. Oh, and once again I had to don the costume of Onomichi to take on a group of bootleggers who sell fake Onomichi merchandise that could explode without warning.
え？
私の番ね。
痛い目に合わせますよ。行くぞ。
舐めると痛い目見ますよ。は？
The business management system I briefly mentioned earlier is similar to that found in Zero, only with more micromanagement involved. You set up a business with employees, trying to max out the most profits imaginable, and then rake in the dough for 4 rounds before having to partake in a Danganronpa-esque shareholder meeting that plays like paper, rock, scissors.
お願いいたします。
こんな社長信頼できません。まだまだ甘く私に論破されて一理ある。私が
I will say this one took me a while before I started to finally understand it, and I didn't really start to understand it until I started to look up some guides online to help me out, and then it started to make more sense, and then it actually was kind of like, oh, duh, why didn't I think of that before? As with the other games, the music continues to please the ears.
元俺らは関東に拠点を置く同じ登場界の親戚団体同士。そんな俺らが お二方はそちらでくつろいでてください。これから一つ余興を楽しんでいただきます。何か悪い。
やってくれたね、春日一番。 可愛げのあるバカだと思ってたね。
俺もあんたは腕っぷしの強いべっぴんさんかと。
とっておきだ。
張り切っていくぜ。私の番です。
Boss battles can sometimes be long, though I never found bosses to be downright cheap for the most part. We do get a nice variety of them too, from people driving construction equipment
なめないでくれる奥の手やっ
してみろ。
やんのか。
俺の番だな。
tigers,
なめる
どうだ。俺の番だな。
a giant ass Roomba. Yes, you heard me right.
絶対負けない頑張ります
してみろ。
奥の手
やんのか。
クリー
ほら来いよ。
ン行きます。
やってやるぞ。
And a variety of other badasses.
奥の手当たって
Speaking of your enemies, I should also mention that all the villains you come across are cataloged in a book called a Sujidex, after you meet an estranged professor who calls your enemies Sujimons and tells you to catch them all. Don't ask. Lastly, while this game does kick off a new set of characters for the Yakuza franchise, there are a lot of aspects in the plot that will go over your head if you are not immersed in the games of the past. I was told by several that this was the perfect jumping on point for the Yakuza series, but I have to disagree. There are events that occur in chapters 12 and 14 that I do not think would have any impact on me had I not gone through the entire Kiryu saga. I had a few boss fights that would have no meaning to me if I didn't know who these characters already were. As such, I do not recommend starting this game without knowing at least a little bit about what has come before. Now, if you are not someone who likes to play your games in Japanese, and that is what has been keeping you away from the franchise, you will be happy to know this game does include an English dub. I personally did not play it with the English dub, given it would sound weird having characters I've spent half of this year listening to in Japanese, but the voice cast seems quite solid overall. If that is what gets you to be willing to play this one, go for it. Just be wary of what I said about needing to be knowledgeable in some of the lore of the other games. Overall, as I said earlier, I really enjoyed my time with Like a Dragon. I walked in as a skeptic and came out loving it. I cannot wait to see what SEGA does with the next installment, but alas, my time with the Yakuza franchise is at an end, and now depression kicks in. All that remains is judgment. Until next time, bye.
それじゃおやすみなさい。